we have a number of people from the machine learning operations team who will probably introduce themselves quickly before we can proceed to the next. Let's start with Juliana.
Thanks, Steve. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. Thank you for attending. My name is Juliana Marcos, and I'm a machine learning engineer working in the team. Ellena?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. So glad to be having you here. My name is Ellena Girma, and I'm the data scientist working with the Artemis team. Elice?
Hello, my name is Elice Lekasio. I'm also working in the machine learning team as a data quality analyst. Welcome. Shekinah?
Hi everyone, my name is Shekinah Henday, and I also work as a data quality and review for the Artemis team. Thank you.
I think we have Tumaini also on the call. Yeah, probably is not joined. So I'm Steve Mutuvi. I'm a scientist with the Alliance, and I lead the machine learning operations team. I'll not take a lot of time. I'll just hand it over to Ellena. We'll do the first part and then hand it over to the next team member. Ellena, welcome.
Thank you. I hope you all are seeing my screen. So why are we really working in ag with AI? First thing to keep in mind with agriculture is that 20% of our croplands are showing declining productivity. And this is all due to human-induced degradation. So based on how we crop and plant all of our practices. Additionally, these degraded soils, they emit a lot more greenhouse gases, which worsens climate change. So we know climate change is already happening at a faster rate, and we're worsening this rate because of our degraded soils. And this is also leading to a decline in crop productivity. So this is a cycle that's quite aggressive at the moment. And at the same note, we know that we need 70% more food by 2050. And we know that each 1% increase in temperature is leading to an approximate 5% decrease in crop productivity. This, again, is slamming us down in the ag field. And there are a lot of solutions that are happening at the moment to address these things, these issues that we have. And we just think as this team, we want to be able to find ways that AI can be a strong catalyst to solving these problems. One of the ways that a lot of teams out there are implementing agriculture AI tools in ag is disease diagnostics and different kinds of advisory services. So, for example, platforms like Plant Village, Tumaini, Klima AI, all of these are offering their users mobile phone app services as well as web dashboards and things of that sort with different disease detection models. So these can be both working on edge, so offline, as well as online, where you're able to just take a picture of the crop that you have either in your field or a previously captured image. And they have models that are working there to at least classify and tell you what disease that is. And some of these platforms, at least most of them at this point, they also offer their users some feedback of this is the kind of intervention that you can apply right now to improve the current status of your crop. And in addition to disease diagnostics, a lot of these platforms also offer different services or features that allow the farmers to track their inputs, track their costs, their labor, and what field management practices that they can apply to improve their current productivity. So this is another example. The first one is from Plantix, and the second one is from Klima AI. As you can see, they also do disease detection, but they also are working on taking all the information they're getting from all the farmers they engage with, specifically the elder farmers, to be able to keep that long-term indigenous knowledge within everyone else's access as well. So another application for AI in ag is precision farming. This is actually one of the biggest use cases for AI in ag. It works for both crop and livestock. So there are many monitoring systems. These systems, they tend to be fixed systems that they mount sensors in different areas, sensors like cameras, temperature, soil quality, air quality, soil, all of the sort based on their use case within that location that they're trying to monitor. For crops, it tends to be more like in greenhouse settings. And for livestock, sometimes they have these sensors that are monitoring the livestock that go out at the start of the day and how many come back. So these are counting models that they utilize, detection for count. And then there are others that are a bit more complex. So I'll take you through a very short video on that. Alrighty, I think you guys weren't able to hear the video. So while I reshare, I'll also just talk through what happened. That's a video that was published by Bloomberg. They did a case study on Canthus, and they're a company that are putting a bunch of services out there for cow or like animal livestock monitoring with different fields. And they showcased a couple of their active models. So they have one that is able to detect the different cows and what they're actually doing. So beyond just counting, what activities that cow doing, whether it's just staying in its stall or it's feeding. And then they also showed a second model that allows for
one thing. One thing I'm particularly curious about is what the camera sees, what.
And so here's another time-lapse video of a day on
Sorry, Elena, that started out showing playing with sound and then stopped. Sound went away at some point. I'm not sure what's
oh
going on.
no. Okay.
Maybe you need to stop sharing and reshare. There's a setting on Zoom that you have to select to allow to play with sound.
Okay. Let's try it again. And thank you for letting.
Particularly curious about is what the camera sees, what the software sees.
So here's 24 hours on a farm, but what we can see here is the output of our computer vision models where we're identifying or observing every cow that we see, as well as the different activities that they're engaged in. So you can see that by the color of the box. And so here's another time-lapse video of a day on the farm, and here we're focusing on the feed. This is the output of our computer vision model. So we have a segmentation model that identifies for every pixel in the image if that pixel contains feed or not. It's an interesting problem to solve from a computer vision perspective. So this is what the farmer sees.
All right. So I think a couple of our videos are having a view error. Let's hope it's working again. But essentially, I hope you are able to at least hear a little bit of the one about precision farming with cows, where they set up a couple of monitoring systems, one that's able to track what cows are present and what activity they're participating in. So whether they're eating or they're standing in the stall. And then second as well, they're able to track their feed. So this helps like the farmers monitor how much feed is present, when the next unloading of feed would be. And they have a lot of these kind of systems that are up there to help farmers better manage their resources. Another tool that's or platform that's out there that's really, really cool is called Aniga. It's developed by a company called FarmNG. They're in partnership with another organization called Bonsai, and together they developed this really unique platform that's able to have hardware and software mounted together to complete tasks like tilling, harvesting. So it's a really cool modular system. And this is another very, very great use case of AI and ag to help farmers out there get more for less work or less effort from them at least. So this again manages inputs, whether it's like labor, so saving costs with labor, upskilling their existing labor to be aware of like newer tools, and then additionally things would cost better management of their resources, whether it's feed or seeds, so they can till and plant correctly as well. Then another use case of AI in ag is mapping land. There are a lot of Earth observation models that are out there that helps people track things like deforestation. This is not really in ag, but also like tracking things like forest fires. And then more in ag is assess what kind of land is out there that's being used for crop productivity, and then map which crops are actually being grown there. And then this is then used by other people who release again modeling services for what kind of fertilizer can be best used in certain areas and how much of that can be deployed out there. And then what I wanted to share with you guys as well is a platform called Digital Earth Africa, or an org or a team. And while they do release like paid services, they have a lot of open source notebooks and tools for playing with remote sensing data. Not just the notebooks, but actually some data, like quite real world data that you can also play around with. Alrighty, so let's take us back a little bit to why we really care about making positive impact in the ag field with AI. It's again to reestablish climate change is moving at a much faster pace. And if you remember that stat that I gave you earlier of 1% increase in temperature can cause 5% loss of productivity. That's what we've been like knowing for a while, but a recent study that was published last year actually showed that that's just a baseline. So for each crop, they did some predictive modeling, and they saw for example, for wheat, a 1 degree temperature increase would result in 6.1% yield loss. But that's up to the threshold, and the threshold for wheat in this case at least is 2.38. And another 1 degree Celsius increase from 3.38 will actually yield an 8.2% loss. So these things kind of they're happening much faster, and ag is really somewhere that we have a lot of solutions out there that we can supercharge in certain ways with AI. So let's just bring us to also the kind of work that we do as the Artemis team within the Alliance. The Alliance is a research organization, and we work within the CGR, which is a group of different research organizations that work in different areas. And our primary goal is science for a food secure future. So there are different working areas out there, like plant breeding, where a bunch of scientists try to develop better varieties for farmers to plant and then get better yield. There are gene banks there, so all these different varieties that are being developed, these gene banks put all of those sources together, and they store these samples to ensure that we have a strong, diverse set of accessions to pull into later. There are people working on adoption, on policy change, and so on and so forth. So we thought, as a team that wants to put out digital solutions, 2 areas that we could directly work into is plant breeding and adoption. So today we'll give you some very clear ways that we apply AI in these 2 areas. Starting with the plant breeding concept. So we have this thing that our plant breeders do where they go out in the field, they look at all the different varieties they've planted and assess their performance. So this is called phenotyping, and it's quite a very taxing thing to do, but it's necessary because that's how they know that this variety is going to perform well in this area, and then this one won't perform that well in this other areas. So they're able to say, okay, this is what we've developed, and then we recommend you guys to use these ones, and then this set of farmers to use these ones, and so on and so forth. Again, very taxing work, and unfortunately, because it is a quite skilled activity and very labor intensive, you can't be everywhere. So a lot of these breeding technicians or breeders, they're not able to go direct to where the farmers are actually planting these varieties to correctly assess how it would grow there. So now we have this thing of it's traditional methods of phenotyping, takes a very long time, and we're only able to do it in a few locations. Now, when we add tech to this, most of the ways that we've been seeing tech be added is with really like very cool drones, but they're not really applicable in a lot of the sub-Saharan breeder program settings, neither farmers, right? So we thought, what is the way that we can introduce AI into this problem space and to help move things along faster. So with a smartphone and computer vision, so from those images that we get from the smartphone, we're able to just go through plots, capture these images, and because it's just a very simple push cart and a phone, we're able to go through many more areas. And when you decouple that concept of mounting the phone to a push cart as well, everyone has a phone. Not everyone, but like most people have a phone, and phones are becoming much more ubiquitous within the global south, which is our primary operational area. And we're able to now get a lot more people out there with phones to go directly to the farms to get us much more diverse data as well, to be able to characterize the crops better. So that first example set was how computer vision can be used in this space. Second one is more for natural language processing. Since we're already in the fields engaging with farmers, we thought, why don't we also get feedback from them? So capture their opinions and their thoughts about what's going on their farms with their native tongue, starting for us at least with Swahili, and better assess what they need so we can feed it back to the breeding pipeline. So yeah, those are our two use cases that we'll present to you, and I'll give you also another overview of what the computer vision problem space actually looks like for us. So we start off with getting imagery. We mount our smartphones to a push cart, very simple, basic metals, just mount and then you go ahead and drive. Of course, the app is also loaded with the phone is loaded with our app that helps us manage data collection in a much more streamlined way. And we move on to getting all that data. At this point, we've collected across different campaigns about 7 million images on different platforms, and we take that, we sample the most diverse set that we can for a given problem or like computer vision task, and then we do annotation. The first image on top here is of segmentation of the different plant features that are there, and it's instance segmentation. So every instance of that object is segmented and then also thus labeled. And then on the bottom, you can see just simple bounding boxes for the task of counting plants within images. We take now these annotations and then we build very specific models. These three images of plants on a given plot, so just a simple 4.5 by 1.5 piece of land where our breeders have planted all their different a specific variety. We're able to just drive through with our push cart, get one image, and then do something like crop row detection. So being able to detect just a line of plants, and then also do a secondarily plant detection on that. So if we overlap those two things, we get a very specific value that tells us how many plants are in each row, if they want to count row wise, or we can also get them the number of plants in the entire image as well. Then finally, after you get our images, we do the annotation, we have our models that are performant, we run it on a new set of data, and then we're able to deliver back to breeders what values they actually care about. So this is our inference and trait extraction. The example on the slide right now is of pod count, where we just segment out the pods in an image, and then we're able to turn it into how many pods there were across time. So give them back time series data, and then finally deliver also an average pod count per plant for a given plot that was there. Alrighty, so this is just an overview, and I want to hand it over to my colleague Shekinah, who will be taking you a little bit deeper into some of our imaging protocols.
Thank you so much, Ellena. I am going to share my screen. Please let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So I'm gonna leave my camera off because of some network issues. So I hope you guys don't mind. So I'm going to take you through now the important piece that drives all the computer vision tasks, and that is the data. So the first thing that you have to understand is, what do I want to collect? And this is what will guide you through what you want to import, and at the end of the day, what you want to output. So the first important thing is, a lot of people go through literature reviews, research papers, but also converse with stakeholders. Who do you want to solve the problem for? So for example, in this use case, we're going to be working with breeders, the people who are responsible for developing new varieties or types of plants that are resistant to the ongoing climatic changes, as how my colleague Ellena has explained before. So the first step is to understand, what are the needs of my stakeholders, in this case breeders. What do I want to fulfill with them, and ask them what are their needs. So let's say, for instance, in this case, the breeders gave us two use cases. Like, the first thing is, I want to be able to maybe count or identify or calculate the surface areas of the fruits in a plant, and in this case it's the pods of a common bean plant. And the second use case is, I also want to be able to see what's inside the pod and calculate the number of the seeds that are present in a pod. Since I know that my technology is capable of going to a certain extent, I have some criteria that I want to be measuring to ensure that I'm collecting as much quality data as possible. So let's say, in this case, my criteria of collecting my data is, it has to be visible. It doesn't need a distraction sampling. That is, I need to pull, harvest, and then open it up to see. And it has to be easy to photograph, maybe with let's say, a smartphone or a low quality camera. So in this case, I would go with pods, because I'll go with the pods on a plant instead of the seeds in a pod, because for the pod, I need to open it up and see what is inside, and I have to go all that extra mile. Then once I've identified, okay, I am capable of collecting this type of data, then I develop now what are the SOPs for capturing the data. So now this, I'm going just to show you a typical development process. So the first thing that is important is identifying the data that you want to collect, which we have already done in the previous slides, which are the pods of the common bean. The second thing is identifying, what tool do I want to use. So in this case, in our project, we have identified a smartphone, and not any type of smartphone, but an Android-based smartphone, because of its availability in a large setting. It doesn't have a lot of restrictions as how iOS has. And then I come up with methodologies of collecting the data that I think I want. So these methodologies can be developed first from an ideation, and then goes to testing in the field. So in this case, I'm capturing, my data type is images. So I have in mind that I want to collect pods, and I have these methods that I've come up with. The first is, I'm thinking, I can stand at the edge of the pot and just take an image. But then my question is, the data that I want to capture is a pod. It means that in these settings, it's really hard to tell where the pods are. But also in method 3, the plants are too young for me to say there is pods or not. But in method 2, first of all, it's a really close-up image, singling only one plant. So if I get close enough to it, I can definitely identify a pod. So once you have identified, okay, this is the best method to move forward with. Remember, all these were ideation and testing, and now you go to the refinement step. So you want to refine it you can refine it through different ways, testing what smartphone types work, how do I want to, what methodology of capturing in real time in field works. So in this case scenario, we have taken the field real-time scenario. So I have the methodology listed. The first is manually holding my phone, but then I have to ask myself, how large are the breeders' plots? How big are the fields? Is it feasible for someone? I mean, anything is possible, but is it feasible for you to bend out the whole day in the sun, just looking for pods and taking each single image using your camera? So the next thing is, okay, that's really tough and it hurts your back. What if you just stand and push something that has kind of an umbrella? And this makes it easier for a person to move, doesn't get tired easily, but also moves faster instead of bending, taking a picture and moving forward. The next thing is, what other things are popular for people to use? Let me try selfie sticks, because people know selfie sticks. Will it help in taking these pictures? So once I test, let's say for this case scenario, I've tested selfie sticks, and I found maybe clicking every time when taking a picture is also tiresome. Maybe it makes your hands get tired, and also bending is a bit hard. But then I found that pushing a cart is really easy, and it has an added functionality of shielding me from the sun. And this is actually the tool that we developed for our project called Artemis. So these are typical steps of what questions do you ask yourself over and over until you come with really good working SOP for your data collection. Now, from all of that, from the explanation that I just gave, you will see that you have some guidance on what makes you decide that this method isn't good. Let me move on to the next. So the first important thing is quality. In our case scenario, it's images. So we are looking at image quality scenarios such as blurring, stitching effect if you are using the panorama function of the camera, lightning, contrast, brightness, and so on. Once I have resolved this, then I go a step forward. Now, it's really important to associate your data with information that defines the data. Because if you have a large chunk of data with no way of telling what this data is, it's like a storyline describing what the data is to you. So for example, you have an image and you don't know what the plant name is. You don't know where it came from. So you can't pull out even simple function of what should I name the crop. So the first thing is ensure you're collecting as much metadata as possible that are pertaining to your computer vision task. And the other important thing I wanted to say, the last, but it's not, there are several things, but one of the most important things is the easiness of use. You are building this for stakeholders. You want them to be able to adapt it, and they would adapt it if it takes less time to what they are used to do. It is easy to use compared to their own current protocols, but also it's really adaptable. And adaptability is also defined by also availability of the tools. So my colleague had mentioned we made a push cut out of just random methods. So with these methods, I am sure if I go anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa to any type of welders, I can just show them a picture or even talk them throughout, like make it this way and this way. And this helps in increasing the adaptability of your tool. Now you have collected your data, you have a specific computer vision task that you want to work on. So the first important thing is processing your images. And images can be processed in different ways. And today we are going to be talking about image annotation. So the first thing is defining the annotation type of tasks that you want to do. So for example, I want to count the number of pods in a plant. Then I'll go with bounding boxes because I just need to encompass the pods in bounding boxes to say this is pod 1, this is pod 2, this is pod 3. And it's easy also to just do for the sake of counting. The other thing is I want maybe to calculate the surface area of the pod. How big are the pods? How small are the pods? Then I'll go with segmentation because it identifies and outlines the object in the image. But maybe someone wants to see, I want to know the positioning or the placement of the pods in the plant. Then I can just use points to point, like here there is a pod, here there's a pod, and you can just get a kind of a skeletal outline of how the pods look like in the plant. So once you have identified that, then you develop guidelines that will guide the annotation process. Now, in our team, what we are doing, which is really, really effective, is first of all, develop the guidelines with a small subset of annotators, which we call, which in a scenario we call in-house testing. So we sit down, we define the parameters, we define the don'ts and do's in these cases, and all other major scenarios that we think might happen and resolve them. Once that is done, we define what labels we want to associate with the objects in the image, then push out to training. And in training, because as my colleague has said, we have collected over 7 million images, those can't be processed with, let's say, 10 people or 5 people. So we need a large team of annotators outsourced to work on it. So the guidelines that were developed in-house are now pushed out to them. So their job is just to follow the guidelines, annotate, and maybe also, document queries that are not covered into the document. As we know, things keep on evolving. And once that is done, the annotated images go to quality checks. If they pass, they go to the data set for now other computer vision tasks. And if not, they go back to guideline development, which in this case will be iteration to figure out what are the problems, how do we solve them, and then the loops goes on until we get quality data pushed to the data set. Now, we have worked with video, images, and audio annotation, and these are some of the tools that we have used that we want to run by with you. Here we're just going to present 4 because it's what we have interacted with, but there are a lot of annotation tools that one can choose depending on the type of task and also the heaviness of the task. So the first platform that we are using a lot is called RoboFlow. So its advantage, it's really user-friendly. So if you hear about those interfaces where it's they say you get the guidance is by clicking buttons. So it has everything outlined for it's just for you to click, you go here, you click, you go here. And then it is AI assisted. It's powered by very recent models. One of it is SAM 3. So it's like really AI friendly. It's also fast, and it has an integrated flow. That means you don't have to pull a chunk of your work from RoboFlow to push it maybe to your local machine or Python to run other maybe model or computer vision stuff. Now, the only limitation of it is it's a bit pricey. It has an added advantage of free use, but you have a lot of limitations. Then it has limited annotation type, and it has a less open ecosystem. That is, everything is kind of tied together, like kind of most of the chunk of work you have to perform it in the RoboFlow interface. The other computer vision tool is called CIAT. And an advantage to this is a free open source, and it has a lot of annotation type, which we're going to see a little bit later. And it's self-hosted, meaning you can interact with it however you want. It's like more of a hands-on. Now, some of the advantages, because it's a hands-on, it's not user-friendly because it's not like beginner-friendly. You need to have some prior knowledge, and it has less AI support compared to RoboFlow. Another tool is LabelMe. So it's free, it's simple, and has basic annotation types, so it's really user-friendly and runs locally. So you just download it to your machine and run it from there, compared to the last two where you have to run them on the web. The cons of it, it has limited AI support, and it's not ideal for large projects compared to how CIAT and RoboFlow imports projects. Then the last one, it's called Label Studio. Now, Label Studio has, you can do a lot of tasks in it compared to the others. You can do audio annotation, video annotation, image annotation, text annotation, and it's flexible. That is, you can integrate or work with Cloud Runs, or you can even push some workflows on your local machines. But because of this flexibility, it's kind of needs a lot of hands-on it. So it's not beginner friendly like RoboFlow. It needs for you to have some prior knowledge to it. So today I'm just going to share with you an annotation demo, or like an overview of how CIAT looks like, because it's free and it has a lot of advantages, I would say, compared to Label Me and Label Studio. So main reason for choosing it is because it's free. So because the sound won't be audio, I'm just gonna talk you through. So this is how it looks like when you just open it up, then you sign in using your Google account, and then it lands you to your project space where you can define tasks, jobs, labels, and so a job is like a set of images that you want to work with, and define what annotation tasks you want to work with. So here you have where you have all these annotation types that you can utilize. You have save function, you have skipping, but the skipping is inside, like you can move within a job. If a job has a set of maybe 35 images and the whole project has 100 images, you can only move within those 35 until you get out and join another job. And I'm gonna move faster because it doesn't talk. Then you have where you store where all your labels appear while you label. So you can go delete, add, change, say, okay, these labels interact, overlap, and etc. So now I'm just showing the function. So you can move the image, you can kind of rotate it. Some image needs rotation for you to be able to annotate well. And you can also fit image to the screen, select an area of interest, use AI tools, use OpenCV, and also you can draw boxes. In this case, they are called rectangles. You can do polygons. You can do polylines, which are really good for videos. You can do points. You can do ellipses, which is kind of a rectangle that is kind of oval. Then you can do cuboids, and then you can do masks, and you can tag your images or labels. And then you can decide, I want to overlap my polygons, I want to merge them, I want to split them. So it has all these different functionalities that you can test out. And then, so let's take an example of drawing, let's say, a box on the image. So for example, I drew a box, I don't want it, I can just go delete it on the label tab. And I can like draw by shape, by track, depending on now what type of output, annotation output you want to push it, because there are multiple different ways that you can export your annotations. Then once that is done, let's say you have finished identifying the rows of your plants, then you can just go out and export your data set. And one of the cool functionalities of CIAT is CIAT and RoboFlow, you can predefine like how do I want my annotation exported at the end of the day, and do I want images or not. So yeah, I think that is all from me. Welcome, Juliana.
Thank you, Shekinah, for taking us through the annotation. Okay, so in this section, we are going to take a real-life case, that is object detection and segmentation, but for the flower open class. And this is done in real life by the breeders. So what they are looking for is basically the 50% flowering date. That is the date where half of the plants in the plots have at least one open flower. So one way to do this, applying machine learning and computer vision to it, is to use the object detection and instance segmentation task type. So on the left side, we have a sample for object detection. So one can see how coarse the label are since they are bounding box. And on the right side, they are finer. So basically, they show clearly the boundaries of the flowers. Next slide, please. So for both task types, the dataset is split into three folds: the training set, the validation set, and the test set. And this is in order to avoid overfitting and enable the final model to generalize well to new images that the model hasn't seen before. Then another common thing to the two type of task is the way to evaluate it. Here, what we use is the MAP metric that is standard and well known or used in the computer vision and machine learning field. So it has an advantage over simpler metric like accuracy because it's also involve localization and classification. And localization here is important because we want to maybe know the location where the flowers are instead of just counting. So here, the MAP metric is used as a proxy and is not the actual counting metric because after the model has detected or predicted the flower open object, there is a whole process that is conducted after that, and Ellena talked about it during the first part of the presentation. Next slide. Okay, so these slides present experimental setup and key results obtained in the team for the task of flower open detection. So in the initial setup, we had about 1,000 high-resolution images that were annotated by the internal annotation team with a bounding box as we saw in the last few minutes. And the model that was used is YOLO V12 accurate, and the input size for the size for the input is 640 times 640, which is standard, but one can go beyond that as we will see soon, and depending on the model that is used. So we try a couple of things in terms of hyperparameter tuning, in terms of modeling, data augmentation strategies, to name a few. And what worked best for the object detection type task for the flower open was to use YOLO V12 in its extra large size with more annotated samples, and that enabled to gain about 6 percentage points in terms of MAP, which is a huge gain. Other things that we tried here is basically using standard data augmentation, but it didn't enable increasing the performance. So sometimes that's happened. It's happened that data augmentation doesn't really help with performance improvement. Next slide. So here we have the configuration that currently works best. So it's provided a an additional 5 percentage point for the MEP. And that was using the YOLO V26 medium model that was released quite recently, actually last month. And that model was optimized, and it actually enables going to very high resolution. So about 2048 times 2048, which is 4 times bigger than our input size for the initial setup. We also got a more annotated image, which definitely helped for performance improvements. Okay, so now let's talk about the results and the experimental setup for the instance segmentation type task. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we had a reference setup that was made of YOLO P11 extra large. The resolution is about 1024 times 1024 for the inputs. And we also tried some data augmentation strategies. And we have some samples on the right side of this slide that shows the transformation that have been applied to some of the image. So these are, for example, brightness, blurriness, saturation, rotation, and cropping. Interestingly, what worked best was to have YOLO V11 in its medium size. And that's simply like this simple setup enable getting 13 percentage points for in terms of gain for the MEP. And one thing that I want to mention here is this performance increase is with models that have been trained with another class, that is the plant bean class. But here we want to focus only on the flower open class. Next slide. Okay, so far we have seen the two type of tasks that we tackled in order to have the count for flower open. So this is basically the object detection and instance segmentation. And the strategies that we have tried involve hyperparameter tuning, increasing the input resolution, trying different model, different size, and some data augmentation strategies. Here, there is a summary of things that we have tried but have not necessarily mentioned or explained in deeper detail here. And recommendation for those of you who are interested in participating to the AI for EAC challenge. And I highly encourage you to do it because it's an interesting problem to address. So what we have tried include transformer-based models, in particular RFTTR, but it didn't perform as well as YOLO models. Something else that we did is model assembling, and this basically enable performance gain. We also tried what is called SAHI, which is a method that involves splitting the original image into smaller pieces because the flower open object are small scale and the image have high resolution. So this generally works well for this kind of object. So we tried that method. It gave good results, but at the cost of the inference time, and the margin between the best model for the SAHI and the conventional model was not too huge. It was about 1 percentage point. So it's something that you guys can deeper during the context. Other things that we try is semi-supervised learning that involve a mix of human annotated data and pseudo label, which are labels that are generated by what is referred to as a teacher model, basically a bigger model that has been trained on human annotated data. So these are kind of artificial labeling, since labeling is kind of time consuming and challenging. That is a way that one might want to look into, but it also didn't improve the performance that much. Other things that would be worth taking a look at include multi-head models, multi-scale or pyramidal model, test time augmentation, and resolution-aware training, basically mixing multiple resolution, 640, 1024, and perhaps 2048 if the models enables it. And next, please. Okay, so lastly, still for those of you interested in participating in the challenge, we have summarized a few platform and tooling that could help you run and train your model as well as evaluate them. So they are categorized into 3 classes. The first one is the free and easy access one that we all like. And yeah, here there is Google Colab, Kaggle, RoboFlow options. For the paid recommendation, we have AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure. And lastly, some of you might have some gaming laptop or laptop that involve GPU, so it could be interesting to train on them and use software like PyTorch, CUDA, TensorFlow. Last recommendation in terms of tooling platform could be to use a mix of one of several setups. So basically, maybe start with the local machine or one of the free easy access platform, and then scale if you need more computational resources with the paid credits. I'm going to hand over to Steve so that he takes you through the remainder of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Juliana. For the first part of the presentation, we've been talking about breeding, which aims to increase genetic gain, therefore result to varieties that have probably good yield or disease resistance. And for most part, that research happens on station. Of course, we need to be able to have those new varieties work well on farm, where there are different environments. And so besides just developing new varieties, we need to be able to test them on the field. And once we are successful that they can work in different places, we need to now think about adoption, which is what I'll be talking about in this part. We know that we can have very good varieties that have been developed, new varieties that are resilient to climate change. But from studies, we haven't seen them being adopted as we would imagine. So the adoption rate, despite new varieties coming in, is still very low. And so that begs the question, why is it that new varieties are not being adopted? Why do we have low adoption? And that's where we need to ask from the users, in this case farmers, get feedback from them and get to know why the adoption rate is low for some of the new varieties. And for this, we came up with another project called Elice. Elice is banana, that stands for NLP, to develop and innovate zero-shot intelligence, which is about using speech and natural language processing to get feedback from farmers and to analyze those feedback with NLP approaches, including LLMs now. And what we did, we went out to 4 different regions in Tanzania. We collected audio feedback from around 374 farmers. And in this case, we just allow the farmers to freely speak about different varieties that they grew. So we had an approach called tricot, where a farmer would plant 3 varieties, and we would not tell them the names, just label them as A, B, and C. And so at the end of the day, we would ask them, what variety did you like, and which variety did you not like? So out of that conversation, farmers were able to freely speak and provide a lot of nuanced feedback that we went further and analyzed in order to better understand farmers' preferences. Next slide, please. So once we collected the data, about 5,000 audios in Swahili, we processed a big chunk of that. 4,000 of them were transcribed. And then for the transcription, we fine-tuned some of the open source models like Whisper, Web2Vec, and compared a number of them in terms of their different sizes. And then out of those, the Whisper Large seemed to give us a good word error rate, which we then proceeded with to transcribe our test set and then do the analysis. And from the analysis, we were able to cluster to see what traits farmers talked about. There were big classes, the large classes, which are listed on the right. But in those classes, we had also new nuanced traits that came out, things like frost tolerance, shyness of the grains, and so on, which was quite some new detail that had not been documented before. And besides that, we also wanted to know our demographics, how traits came up, and we could see even with fewer words for the women, in this case, we still had quite equivalent number of traits being reported from that gender. So out of this, we were able to get a good signal that just by asking people to speak in their language, which number one overcomes the literacy barrier, it allows us to really get some detailed feedback that we can kind of integrate in the breeding processes. The next slide, please. Yeah, and so our goal as we build these technologies is to make sure that the tools that we are building can really scale to other use cases. For example, talking of the audio data collection approach, we could use this in market research, we could use this in health, and probably augment service, be able to get more deep kind of feedback beyond what service can provide at the moment. So one of the other things which we are very keen on is to make sure we take into consideration ethics. We have to provide consent. We have to ensure that people have an option to opt out, and they can even get the data back and use it in their different ways. So our data sets are on Hugging Face, and the goal is to provide them. Of course, a major other consideration is to make sure that we develop solutions that solve the real problems of the farmers. And in this case, ensuring that we take context into consideration. As I said, we may have a good variety in terms of yield, in terms of disease resistance, but there could be some context issues or factors that the farmers are interested in. For example, the price of the grain or the taste, some other traits. So it's important as we build the solution to take into consideration the context. Another important thing which has been mentioned by my colleague is that we are leveraging devices that are readily available, smartphones, and also building other tools that using readily available materials, like you saw in the pushcart. And of course, we need to make sure as we build the solution, we think of the end user, think also of the farmers, and make sure that whatever varieties or products we develop, they can be adopted and bring some change to the people that are being targeted. Yeah. Thank you. I think the next slide, we ask for thoughts, questions, and I'll hand it over to Ellena to moderate this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And for all those listening, this is the exact time for you guys to participate. Let us know what you're thinking. We will be hosting another webinar within the month. So again, March 10th, same time, I think. So please let us know if you have any questions or things you'd like us to cover in that session as well. Also, end of March, one of the challenges that Juliana was mentioning earlier about flower detection will also be going live. So yeah, definitely stay posted with us. There'll be a lot more activities to come. Yes, I see a raised hand. Go ahead.
Thank you for the session that you've had with us. It has been very insightful for me. I have 3 questions. The first question is, now that we are getting introduced into this application of ML into agriculture, I wanted to know when you kind of like when we submit projects or things like that. Then the other question was, I'm still getting new into computer vision and CNNs. So how do we know the model that can do specific tasks? I worked on a project where I was classifying maize. So I don't know what YOLO does or Mobile V2. Could you give some clarity on some of this? Thank you.
Juliana, Steve, do any of you guys want to take that question?
Yeah, I think I can take the second one in terms of knowing which model to use. Of course, we know in the past few years, we've been moving towards transformers. This started with our famous paper in 2017. Transformers is all you need. But it was mainly for NLP, but over time, transformers have also become popular in computer vision. And from the recent benchmarks, which I'm sure you can always follow online, we see most of the models that are top on those benchmarks are transformer-based models. So today, if I were to pick on any project, I would quickly look at transformer models, the likes of RF, DETR, RoboFlow detection transformer. We still have real-time detection transformer. And recently, most of the YOLO's models, which were CNN initially, have included a transformer component. And the advantage of transformer is the attention mechanism. So what YOLO has done is to combine both attention mechanism with standard convolutions that are famous with the CNNs. So basically, I think everything now is moving towards transformers, and the choice of the model to use would probably depend on the task. If you are looking at mobile deployment, you may need to pick models that are light enough to work on such a setup. Yeah, so I don't know whether I've answered your question, but the simple answer is look for any transformer-based model that suits your setup.
Thank you. You've answered my question. I would like to ask another question if it's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I also faced a challenge where maybe in the next sessions you could talk about how to deal with errors, because I was building a model and I reached a point and for example, for bad maize, it would classify it as good. So how can I make sure that I have a very good model? Yeah, and some of the details are very hard, so I don't know what could have gone wrong in the classification.
Just so I'm understanding the question well, you said you were building a classification model and you're running into an error. So the error is not necessarily with the setup, but rather with it was misclassifying something. Is that what was happening?
Yes, it had to deal with errors.
Okay, thanks, Ian. So I can try to answer the question because the scope is a bit broad. And this is actually the essence of the machine learning, tuning, and hyperparameter search, and so on. So there are several things that you might want to take a look at. And the first may be change your model. And the second will be to make sure that you have enough data. Because generally we have observed that getting more data can help improve the performance of a model, even if nowadays with transformers, especially when you are fine-tuning them, the goal is actually to have less data. One other thing, you might want to conduct some error analysis and try to visualize your prediction and see if maybe this happened in some certain pattern or not. Visualizing can actually help a lot to understand what could be wrong. And since you talk about maize, I'm not sure what setup they are in the image, but if they are small, you can maybe try to increase the resolution of the image, or yeah, try other techniques like the Sahi that we mentioned during the presentation. There are more complex way to also go about this. So I just mentioned tweaking the loss function, but this is more like more technical. So yeah, these are a few directions that comes into my mind as I'm thinking about your question. I don't know if this answers it, and if someone else want to add some more insight to it.
Yeah, I could just add one more thing. So probably you might want to check if there is class imbalance. So make sure that the positive, the negative classes are close to the same number. Otherwise, if they are quite skewed, it's likely that misclassification will happen.
Okay, I see another question in the chat about will the contest in March be fraud detection? So the contests this is all part of the AI for EAC Innovation Challenge, and they have 4 different streams that you can apply AI in. And in each of those 4 streams, which I think are definitely finance, agriculture, there might be education, and I can't remember the 4th one. But within each of those 4 streams of activities, there are different challenges. So the one on fraud detection, I think, is more for the finance or that use case. The one that we'll be posting to all of you participants is regarding flowering. So the exact challenge is not live yet, but it'll be put out there end of March. It will have to do with what Juliana presented today, the detection of open flowers. We are still debating on what else to include in that, whether we'll include the plant detection component as well. But for now, it's flower detection. Any other thoughts, questions, inputs? On that end, I'm not quite sure if there will be communication. So I would say definitely please keep looking at Zindi's page, as they're the ones who are hosting all of these challenges. So just if you are able to search up the AI for EAC, I'll also drop it in the chats. So it's health, agriculture, finance, and education. So hopefully that explore page will be able to, if you keep taking a look at it a couple of times, it should be able to tell you. Also, if you have LinkedIn accounts, please also follow this page there. They will probably post when the different challenges are live. From what I recall, the challenges will be the last week of March. So definitely keep an eye out at least that weekend. And the second question in the challenge, what do we expect for it to be built? For each challenge, there will be very clear criteria on what you're expected to be building. For the most part, it will just be a model. So not a full system that you have to have all the other end-to-end pieces as well. Just functional models that you can run and test, and we can properly evaluate against other participant submissions as well. So I see a question on the 4 streams, if you can explain the participation process. To be fair, I'm not quite sure myself. It's being hosted by Zindi. So when you go take a look at that link shared earlier, you should be able to see all of the 4 streams and then click and then choose to participate. There are already some course offerings there in those streams that are available for you to start working in. But once the participation time actually comes, Zindi is very great at letting you know exactly how to participate, what to submit, as they host other challenges on there as well. I know it's not the answer you probably wanted, but it gives you direction on where you can find that. I hope that's okay. I'm not sure if there are any more questions that you guys have, but please feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand. We'll be here for the next 2 minutes. I'm also going to put a link for the team page. So the team who presented today, which is the Artemis team from the Alliance Biodiversity and CIAT. And you can find our contacts also there if you have other questions for us regarding the challenge. Also on Zindi's page will also be their communication. So if you have any questions pertaining to the challenge, how are we deployed, you can also go there. Alrighty, team. So I think we're good to wind down. Let me know if that sounds okay. Cool. Thank you so much to all the participants that are still here that attended. We really appreciate being able to share this part of our work with you, and we hope to see you on the next one, March 10th, 6 p.m. East African time. And please keep your eyes peeled for the challenge that will be posted by Zindi regarding the agricultural stream on flowering. It will be the last week of March, I think the 28th, 29th. Thank you so much for attending. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.